Okay, we're trying this again to see if this works better. I wanted to see, there we go. No, that doesn't work. Let's see if this works. There we go. Now it shows us being live. Okay, that should be all right. It should be off. That should be off. Okay, this is now, it's now coming in. All right, so gonna kick things off. So a little context if you're kind of what the heck is 2025 Vibe Coding Game Jam. This is kind of a fun little thing that I came across. So if we go on X, there's this guy, Levels.io, which if you sort of seen, you spend any time on X, you probably saw this project that he's been working on, which is called fly.piotr.com. So there's been this trend in the development world, let's call it, gaming world, online world, whatever, called vibe coding, where if you're using AI tools to essentially build something from scratch using code, but using AI to build it, and then make something quickly, get it online, let people try it. So Pieter's done this. Kind of his first coding project was, or first AI coding project was this game called fly.piotr.com. And what we're going to do is I'll just show it to you. So this is what he made. I'll just put Scoble, and looks on paper, kind of just like a pretty silly little. Oh, Firefox is not supported. Okay, first thing I got to fix is I got to switch away from Firefox for this. Okay, so let's do that. I never thought about that. So for testing, we're going to use Chrome. So let's go bookmarks, and let's put that in there, and then let's try Scoble, and let's see if I drop that here. Let's go full screen for a second so you guys can see this. Sure, verification, join the game. All right, so this is fly.piotr.com. So all built with code. I think at one point he said there was close to 80,000 people playing this at once. I don't even know what's going on in here. There's some advertising. I don't know if I don't know if we have to turn on multiplayer here or not. A little stall. The controls are backwards, but there you go. So this was kind of a fun experiment that he ran. Let's see if I can. So I got my mouse cursor. All right, there we go. So yeah, this is basically an experiment he ran to see, what could he actually build here with code completely from scratch. So now what's kind of happened since then is that he's launched this coding jam. Deadline is 7 days from now, 25th. Basically 6 days or 5 days, 7 days from now. And he's got a few rules. Basically, anyone can enter. 80% written by AI. Has to be accessible on the web without any login or sign up, for free. Multiplayer by default. I think he later changed this. So I think if we go down and see the rules, multiplayer is not required. And I think he might have changed a few other things, but basically this is it. Build a game, put it online, use code to build it. And then I think he's still working on sponsorships and stuff and trying to get people involved. But I know like Andre Karpathy is one of the judges. I think, he asked John Carmack. I don't think he's going to be one, but it's kind of taken off and gotten a little steam. So I want to make something, and I thought this would be a really fun project to do. Just kind of spend a couple hours a night messing around, see what I could make. I've been call it vibe coding, learning to code myself, deploying different apps quite a bit using Cursor and other tools. And I've been, kind of just really experimenting with what's possible, with these tools and what you can do. So what I wanted to do today was sort of brainstorm out this idea, get the basics of how I think it's going to work. And then if you're in the chat, hey, Goat Rodeo, this is like a great chance for feedback, just to kind of talk ideas. And then by the end of this stream tonight, which I'm thinking I'll go about 2 hours, I will actually prompt this in Cursor. I will actually launch it. I'll try to get something actually online tonight, even if it's just really basic. But yeah, let's kind of walk through it. So I'm just going to do this kind of as a canvas. So let's just grab some basic information here. So first of all, this is all of the actual event information. So I'm going to just copy this in and see if I can get this into a text color that is, can I get this into a white text color quickly? White. Okay, cool. So we'll grab this up here and I'll just sort of group it all together, and I'll just kind of keep these rules up here in the corner while we start. Okay, so what are we going to build? So I know exactly what I want to build, and it kind of fits really perfect into this idea. My father, who I just sent the stream to see if he can watch, and actually my cousin who's also watching, is air traffic controller. And I thought this would be really cool to think about an air traffic control game. Not something that necessarily would integrate directly with what like flypeter.com did, but something maybe adjacent. Obviously, there's like a big air traffic control topic right now in the US, so I thought it would be fun. And I actually grew up playing a couple air traffic controller games, believe it or not. Two of them I'm actually going to, I think, kind of combine into this basic concept. So let's kind of get the inspiration here. I'm going to write this out, and then I'm going to go grab a couple screenshots, and then we'll start talking about the basic idea of how this will come together. So I don't know what it's going to be called yet, but it's going to be called I'll say, fly air traffic controller simulator 3D game idea. Okay. So there's basically two games that this is inspired by. So the first one is probably one that probably people have heard of or have used. It's this game right here. So this game was one of the first iOS games released in March 5th, 2009. #1 bestseller forever. After a while, I think it got bought by Microsoft, I think, and then it was available maybe still somewhere on Steam. Yeah, there's a Mac version all the way back in 20, like we're talking a long time ago. This makes me feel old. But it was a really fun, addictive game. I'm going to get some screenshots of it and add to this. And I think this is kind of the foundation a little bit of what I'm hoping to build. So I think this is like a good... Yeah, oh, this is cool. This is like a little blog about it. Okay, even great, even better. So let's just grab a quick screenshot and let's drop it in here. There we go. So this is kind of inspiration. And the way this worked, and I could probably bring up a YouTube video and show you, but it's really straightforward. So you would have planes that would come in from the side, and then you'd have to basically draw a line with your thumb or your finger all the way to their landing spot in the airport. So each plane had a different runway that they would land on. So like these big airliners would land here, small jets would land here. Sometimes you get little prop planes that would drop in and land on this one. You get helicopters. Each one had different speed. You'd have to kind of coordinate them all, land them together. And if you crashed, the game was over. That was as simple as it was. And I like this style. I like the art. I think it's kind of a cool inspiration for this. But there was this other game that I used to play when I was like 8 years old that was like absolutely insane. And it was called Traycon. I think it was Traycon 2. And I'm going to download it at some point during this demo. But I don't know, John, if you remember this or not. But I think this is the one. So I'm going to go to Traycon. I'll see if I can get a little bit of audio here, if you guys can see that. If that hopefully works. And then hopefully this audio is off. Yeah, I think it should be all right. No, this is actually not it. It was Traycon 1 maybe. Traycon ATC. I had the YouTube video up here not too long ago. Was it this one? No, ATC. Traycon. Maybe it was, let me see if I can find a video of this. Traycon. Yeah. Yeah, you remember, John remembers. Okay, this was the serious one. This is not even the one. Traycon ATC. This was it. Okay, John, you'll die. This is amazing. This was Traycon 1.2. Look, a retro old guy. So he uploaded this video 3 years ago. So I don't know if you'll be able to hear the audio. Dude, what's so crazy about this one, this Traycon game? We got this full screen in a second.
6-3 Delta, descend to maintain 2,000. Bonanza 6-3 Delta, descending to 2,000.
Okay, so what was really cool about this game, I'll let this kind of play out here, is this one actually was voice activated, and I think you actually could hook up your microphone. This is like 90s or something. This game came out, and you could actually talk to the plane. So you would click on a plane, you would like give it, turn right heading blank, descend and maintain blank, and then it would actually execute that on the actual game. Each one of these planes had its own, landing speed, its own cruising speed, a max speed. It basically had everything. And then each airport was real. Yeah, so there you go. So pause that there. So basically here you had your aircraft information where you could understand like, okay, this thing will stall at 80 knots. It needs to be at 130 knots for approach for landing. Cruise speed, top speed. That's its rate of climb. I don't know if weight and wingspan or any of this had any factor, and I don't think range mattered. But this is what you really cared about. So you could go up to that speed. You would want to cruise here. You'd want to approach there. You'd stall at that, and your rate of climb would be that if you wanted to climb it, or I don't know if it could go up higher on descending. But this one was really fun. So you just had your airplanes come in. You had your airports. You would fast forward. You could bring up all this overlays to get the information. And this was, I mean, John can tell me if he's in the chat. I don't even know. My father did this, 20 years ago. This was actually fairly close to kind of how everything was laid out. You had your pending airplanes that were coming into your airspace, your active airplanes you're working on. You'd have to hand off the airplanes when they went off your radar. I have no idea what kind of tech. They probably are all automated now. They probably just sit back and drink beer and do nothing. But this was like the actual setup when my father did it. So what I'm going to try to do, and I'll grab a screenshot now of this. What I'm going to try to do, actually, let's get this down to here so I can actually get a proper screenshot. All right, there we go. Bang. Okay, great. So, yeah, this one's crazy. It's actually pretty. It actually is pretty realistic in terms of like for a game that old. You'd have to look up. It was called TRACON 1.2, I think. Let me just grab that screenshot and bring it in. So basically, what I think we're going to try to do is we're going to try to do some combination of this, and let's grab a screenshot while we're here. Although it's not going to work very well in Firefox. Let's grab Chrome and let's go to fly.peter.com. Let's just join this in, grab a screenshot of this guy and just join the game. And let's go here, select. It hijacks my mouse, so I can't really do much here. Let's Okay, great. So we got a screenshot now of that. All right. Okay, so general goal is something that feels like that, and I'm going to say that I'm going to go for multiplayer, but we're going to see how this all shapes up. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of what I'm thinking. So I'm going to grab text here and drop this in. And I was talking to John about this, my cousin, and sorry, I just doxed you, John. And we were talking about like how this could work, and okay, yeah, so streaming is right. So like the basic idea is that like I'm kind of thinking is originally I was thinking, all right, like maybe I'll just do this. And maybe I think for the first version I might, where it's like each plane has its own speed. There's no altitude. They're just sort of drag them in and then kind of make a multiplayer component of that, which I think is, I have some cool ideas on how to do it. But I'm leaning more towards maybe like a more complicated version of this that incorporates some of the standard like air traffic control stuff where you're like, tell the plane, hey, you got to descend to this, and then it does it, as opposed to in this one, everything's flat. You're just dragging like the actual approach. And like, this was kind of funny because when you would do this, what you'd end up doing is you end up taking an airplane and you'd like make it do circles in the corner while the other ones land, and then you'd bring it in, which is kind of, maybe is not a realistic thing. So, we're going to try to do some combinations. So basic idea would be, let's grab some text. So first thing would be I'm just going to generate a basic map with airports, landing and takeoff. And let's not do the helicopters for now. Let's just do basic map with airports. We're going to say the difference between right away that I want to do between this one and that one is I don't remember 100%, but I don't think airplanes took off in this version. I think they always were landing. So I think I want to have airplanes that are taking off and landing. And I want to have each airplane has an origin, which is the origin, and a destination. So what I'm thinking in terms of multiplayer is I'm thinking that obviously you have planes that take off in your airspace and you have planes that will come into your airspace from different areas. We should have a better marker or something. Does this have anything like a laser pointer? Pretty impressive if they had a laser pointer in here. No laser pointer? Oh, look, they do. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is awesome. All right, so let's zoom in on this. So obviously you're going to have planes that are coming off here, and they're always going to have a destination. So technically we could have a plane that comes off here and has to land back there. We could have planes that, why not? We could have a plane that's going to, take off here and it's going to come back here and land. Or we're going to have planes that are going to take off and they're going to have to go to an airspace. So what I'm thinking for multiplayer is figuring out a way, and I haven't decided if it's going to be like each area is some other player. Like that could be a player, that could be a player, that could be a player. The other idea is like maybe segment out the airspace in a way where there's different, like not make it a square. So like there's a player that's up here. There's a player that's up here, player here. You have multiple people around you. And the idea is that, when planes take off, it's going to flash or there's going to be something to indicate where they have to go. So you just have to sort of direct them to their airspace that they're supposed to go to and hand it off to another player. And John and I were talking about this, like maybe, a specific, and you can chat in if you're still there, you're not working. I'll think through this in terms of like I'm guessing there's likely some specification for like the altitude and the speed that you're supposed to hand them off at. So we could build that into it. So when they have to go to the edge, they have to be at a certain altitude or a certain speed to do the handoff properly. Obviously you'll have planes that'll then come in from other players' areas. So if a plane comes in here, it might be landing there. But each plane, I think I'd like to have each plane have an origin and a destination so that there's a very specific place that you have to actually land the plane. And then the multiplayer part of this, which I'll kind of pop back to here. So I said each plane has an origin and destination. I'm going to say planes might take off in your airspace and land in your airspace. Planes may take off in your airspace and be handed off to another area. Planes may come in from another area and land in your airspace. I mean, obviously, it's all the options. Or planes may pass through. That's the other part too, right? Planes may pass through your airspace. So the reason why I think this is a cool way to do it is that what I'm thinking is making a big map. So basically, if this is one area, I want to kind of expand it to a big map with multiple airports and different areas, and each player would be responsible for a specific area on the map. And that way, when we're playing, like I could hand it off to someone else, someone's handing off to me. There's a competitive nature to that. And I'm thinking about something to do with if you crash, you like if you send an airplane into someone's airspace and it crashes, you then like acquire part of their airspace. So there's some competitive nature here of either acquiring more airspace that you can control, or some type of system where people essentially move up, like you're moving into a higher level or scored airspace. I'll try to demonstrate this and how I was going to do it. So I'll say pass through the airspace, and then the last part, which is going to be the tribute to Pieter, is that we're going to do vibe planes. So planes maybe vibe flying, where there's no specific destination. So what this comes in is a plane could take off at your, a plane here could take off in your runway. What's the laser pointer hotkey? Okay. So a plane could take off here, and if it's vibe flying, I can do anything I want with it. So I could land it if I want. I could send it off to this airspace or that space. Yeah. Is that, John, fewest accidents over a period of time? Is that your like normal goal? Like just minimize the total number of accidents? Yeah. So like the original flight control and actually Tracon, it's like if you like the game is over when you crash a plane, period. Like that's game over. So you got to think about that, whether we want game over crash or, you kind of keep going. So let me just, I'll put this in. I'll say, we'll just do another little section here. Decisions to make. 1, does the game end on crash? 2, how does scoring work? 3, how do players move up on the game world? Okay, I'm going to attempt to draw this. First of all, I'm going to do a little bit more of this kind of planning, and then I'm going to get right into to try to code it. But let me just kind of break down how I was picturing this in my head when I was working on it. So the first thing I thought was like, let's get a game map that's like some big area, right? So let's say we've got an area like this, and then maybe it'd be easier to draw this. So I was kind of thinking like, okay, you'd have like an airport here, an airport here, an airport here, here. Each one of these is an airport. You'd have different sizes. Obviously, just imagine each one of these as an airport. And then this is the global map. So one player wouldn't be responsible for all this, and this could get as big as we can imagine. But I was thinking either players would actually get their own area, right? So each player, probably a bad example the way I do that, because you kind of have something like this, right? Each player gets an area. So we have player 1, 2, 3, 4. And originally I thought, okay, player 1, the top player would be here. And the idea is like you would move. So you'd start down here, and if you survived, you would like say move, or say you'd start down here, and then you would move like this way, and then this way, and this way. So every time like this player dies, you would move to their space. And then if this player dies, you'd move to their space. If you die, you go back here. So it would be like start, and this would be end. So it's kind of like a king of the hill. Like you would end up going up here until you got to this spot. So this was my original idea. And then I thought about it, and I was like, okay, what if we went like this? So I was like, what if you made a big airspace in the middle, and then you made like something like this, right? So you said like, okay, how do we have bigger airspaces? This is like one of the worst drawings ever made, right? Something like that. And then outside here, you go smaller. So you have small airspaces on the outside and big airspace. You can kind of continue this, imagine, right? All the way down to like these airspaces are like this. So if you start at the edges, if you're in the game and it's a big multiplayer game, you start here, you have to worry about the people on your left and your right, but you have a little bit of a break because you don't have to worry about people here. And in fact, if you start on this corner, you only have to worry about people up here and people up here. You don't have to worry about this or this. Obviously, as you get into the middle, you've got better and better players, moving towards this space. And then in here, you've got probably a bunch of different airports. Maybe you've got a heliport even. And now this space here is the king of the hill. If you're controlling this airspace, you've got the most planes coming in, you got the most people challenging you, and there's some way for these players to move in and take this spot when this guy crashes a plane. So this idea would be like, if you crash a plane, you start here and you have to work or start here. So we'll say start. And basically from here, you've got to kind of move in, like keep moving spaces until eventually you get to this space. And then whoever's playing this is like whoever's essentially currently playing the game for the longest. And that person has this king of the hill central spot, and they're just kind of like being bombarded with airplanes. So this was idea number 2. So I'll just kind of bring this back here and say this was idea 1. This was idea 2. I need to get a little stylus. And then the last one that I was thinking about was like this. So again, you have a big game map, and you can still do that same thing with the airports. So you say there's like an airport here, one here, here. I should have just copied the other one. Here, right? It's like this. Right? So say each of these is an airport. And then in this idea, I was thinking it would be more like, can I change that? So it would be more like this. Right? So each area would be slightly different. Right? The airport up here. Right? Maybe this area has this. Maybe there's one here and here. Maybe there's an area like that. Area like this. Area like this. And like maybe you have one airport, maybe you have 2, but you can kind of imagine like these pieces starting to come together as different airports or different airspace, right? So every player would have an airspace, and there would be something here where, as like if I sent a plane, let's say I sent a plane into this airspace, and then this guy crashes here, something would happen where this line would redraw. So now this would become, wow, that was bad. How do I do a regular eraser? They don't have just like regular erase. We can't just erase, normal. Okay, well, I guess I could do black. Right? Now, that's my airspace. So that's where I think I'm at. I'm at like some version of either this version, which I actually think is probably not the right version to do it. The only reason I thought it might be a good starting place is because everyone was square and there's like a clear progression of like trying to move one at a time until you get to the top. This one I kind of think is interesting, but I have to think of the dynamics of it because, essentially you're trying to move your way through. There's always room for new players. So if you're here, you're kind of like, all right, I'm trying to move my way in. So I'm always trying to probably send planes into the middle. So if I'm like this guy here or this guy here, like I'm always trying to send my planes this way because I'm trying to get closer to the middle. But there could be something to tell you here, like, okay, this player is a certain, like a score, like this guy's like a 63 player or whatever. so that you know, like if I move this way, this guy's a weak player or this girl's a weak player, I can get closer to the center. So maybe your path to go from here to here is like, I got to go here, then up, then here. And like you have a path to get to this spot. Each time you go further, you acquire bigger airspace that you're controlling. But like this is the best player in the game until they die. And then one of these guys moves into the middle. The hard part about this one is like if you crash and you lose your entire airspace, it's almost like hard to decide what ends up like who gets that spot. Like, is it the plane that if this guy sends a plane in and this person crashes, does this person take the space? That makes sense. But what happens if this plane crashes into another plane? Well, where did that plane come from? Who gets the space? So this one, I have a big question that I can't quite figure out is who gets the space when someone crashes? And is there an obvious path to go from the outside to the inside in a reasonable amount of time? So those are kind of my two big questions on this one. I don't know if you can you just like drag? Oh, nice. Okay. So I haven't used this Excel draw thing very often. So let's just kind of drag that down here and say that. Okay. And then for this one, I kind of like this because like I could imagine something that draws in these lines. And I like how in this case, I kind of like how it's constant acquisition. So if you kind of break up these airspaces, you could easily see like if there's a crash, you lose. I'm trying to think of how to do it. Like you could almost calculate the area. So it would be like if I crash a plane here, there's some type of a breakup of that space that goes to the adjacent players. And it's essentially a game of trying to take over space. The interesting part about this one, though, is I don't know how it plays out. Like, could it have an end? If this is like, say, a 64-player multiplayer, will it end, right? Like, if I was playing this with a bunch of people online, would eventually somebody like lose all their space and one person end up a winner? And then the other question I think that comes up with this one is how do you decide, same issue, how do you decide which space goes to which player? Okay, so something like that. Okay, so this is the basic roadmap that I'm trying to kind of figure out. But I think that the first question is going to be around what's like if we just, because we're going to try to build just a simple version of this to start. And I think that the question I have, which I'm just going to drop over here to start, I'm kind of just think through this before I go. Okay, so the first question is, so in flight control, there's only drawing routes with fixed speed, altitude, and no takeoffs. I'm pretty sure that's true. I'm pretty sure all planes have to come in from the outside and then you land them. So in TRACON, there's heading, altitude, speed, origin, and destination. Also in here, there's no takeoffs. There's no like in here, there's no routes, fixed speed, altitude, takeoff. There's no destination. Like you can just kind of send a plane wherever they're capable of landing. So here they have to land at a certain plane. There's a destination. In TRACON, So in Tracon, there's what do we call it? Like orders, essentially. Like I don't know what you call it in air traffic control. You call it John, you can help me out if you're still watching. Like you're giving it instructions. So there's instructions, commands to planes, and I think in different modes, planes will follow with varying degrees of accuracy. So I remember that from Tracon. Like you might tell a plane turn right to this destination or whatever, and they don't do it properly or they're off by a bit. So that gives like a little bit of extra complexity. There's also in Tracon, there's landing. There's basically specs for each plane. So there's cruising speed, landing speed, or approach speed, I think it's called. Approach speed, max speed, stall speed, and altitude. What do we call it? Altitude per minute kind of thing. Like how quickly you can close it. There was also in Tracon, Tracon was actually audio. So I think you could actually talk to the planes and they would respond back. So in Tracon, there was an audio interface, which would be kind of cool. I don't know how much people would like doing that. Face versus drag for flight control. All right. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do for this is I think I'm going to start with just kind of getting the basic framework set up here for Three.js, because I think one of the ideas I had was like, this is a full 3D game. This is not going to be full 3D. I don't think we want to be confusing people with having to worry about like spatial understanding of where things are. But I do think like the early version could be a 3D view from above, or maybe like an isometric view, like something a little bit more interesting than this. And then I think there could be a potential at some point where you could actually move to 3D. So I think there would be kind of a fun idea here. I actually had thought a little bit about this, and this is like kind of a little bit of out there idea. I was like, this would be really cool in VR, because you could have a little like, or AR actually, you could have like little airports around your apartment or your house, and you could actually kind of use your, your VR headset controller to kind of draw like a line to them, and you would have to keep all the planes spatially separated in your like apartment. So I kind of had this weird idea that might work like that. So what I think I'm going to do is set this up in a 3D environment, make it a fixed camera to start. Maybe just start with this basics. Like let's try to recreate flight control in Three.js. Let's start with just the basic mouse commands, because I think that we should get a feel for how that works. And then I think after we get that running, we can make a decision of whether we want to go down the path of trying to give a bit more like a control to the planes. John and I were talking about how to give them like the altitude instructions. And I think like if we actually... I think this is interesting. I think there's something to maybe this. Maybe there's a middle ground here that's the right, because I was looking about this and I was like, if you just kind of tilted the view a little bit and maybe made it like 3/4 isometric, like sim golf or something that kind of like you can get a feeling of perspective. I think you could drag your mouse from the plane to the airport. And I think you could like, I was thinking you would drag it. And as you dragged it, you would scroll your mouse wheel. And that would essentially like make your line drop in altitude, so that you're basically guiding that plane down to the right elevation. And then if you wanted to speed up the plane, you could just click it and you could scroll your mouse and that would increase the speed. Or you could click it and scroll it down, it would decrease the speed. And then for turning, I was like, you either would just draw the line or you would tell it to turn. So I think I'm going to just kind of feel this out and kind of figure out how this would work. So I think if I was kind of break this down quickly, and this will be the last thing I type, and then I'll actually start to test this, I think would be, this is kind of our goals, right? Goal number 1, get flight control in Three.js, right? So can we get flight control kind of going in Three.js? That would be goal number 1. Goal number 2, experiment with essentially controls. So we'll say flight control versus tray control. Goal number 3 would be to test a multiplayer option. You know, I think it'd just be interesting to kind of see, can we get a couple people playing online at the same time, and those planes are sort of going from one airport to another. So this would be where we have like a origin and destination plus vibe flying. And then I think goal number 4 would be to figure out multiplayer mechanics, which is option 1, 2, 3 on our list. And I'm going to actually drop one more in here. I'll say goal number 3, and we'll just change these to 4 and 5. I think just coming up with like a scoring system, you know, points versus death only. Just kind of get a feel for like, does it matter how well you're doing? You know, is it about how many accidents you have? Is it about how many points you score? Or is it survival? Like, are you just purely try not to let the plane crash? And if the plane crashes, your game's over. I'm just going to do a quick tweet, and then I'm going to try this out. Levels.io. Starting my Levels.io. Code, jam, vibe, coding, jam, building a air traffic control simulator. Nice. Okay. There we go. All right. I think we got to start building something. So let me just grab cursor and let me just get myself slightly organized here with a project folder. And then from here on out, I'll just live stream exactly what I'm doing. So let me go into web projects. Let me go into, where is it? Fly control, we'll call it. Actually, let's call it, all right, we're going to do fly control. All right, we're going to call it temporary. We'll call it fly control. I mean, we'll get sued by Microsoft for sure, but let's just get this open up. And then, okay. So let's get this here. I think what I'm going to do is we'll get a Chrome browser going probably right away. It's just going to be blank for now, so I'll keep it off screen. And then I'm going to bring this here, and I'm going to bring cursor here, and then we'll grab this and just kind of put it off to the side here. Okay, cool. All right. Oh yeah, we got a cursor update because they just did a new model, so we'll just grab that cursor update. Okay, I think that should be updated. I saw that it was, I don't see it yet. There was a new Claude 3.7 deep thinking model. Interesting. All right, so first thing first, if you don't know what vibe coding is, so I'll kind of be really kind of break down my I guess my skill set and where I'm at. So I have used 3GS before, very limited. 3GS is like an open source framework, can run in a browser. It's what that fly.pieter.com is running in. I'm not like completely unfamiliar with it, but I definitely am not, advanced in understanding how it works. I do 3D work, so I can actually make, 3D models and do stuff in Blender. I don't know if we're going to end up doing that here or not. I think if I do, I'll end up doing it with AI because there's some new AI tools that people have been using where they connect them to Blender and actually use, coding or AI to actually build their app in Blender. But basically, what vibe coding is you're talking to a large language model, to an AI. So think like ChatGPT. So you're talking to ChatGPT. You're telling ChatGPT what you want to build. You're explaining your process. You're collaborating with ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is actually writing the code. Now, if you are brand new to coding, that means that you're just producing whatever it produces. You're testing it. You're seeing if it works. If you're a developer, you might be intervening and rewriting code and testing it and all this stuff. But for this project and kind of what, I guess the ethos of this idea is 80% has to be written in AI, which means like the idea of vibe coding is you're kind of trying to do as little as possible of actual coding to make it work. So you're trying to use AI as much as you can. That's, I think, the general goal of this particular project. So I will try to kind of do that, and I'll try not to intervene as much as I can. And ideally, we're going to build this thing completely from scratch, just with prompts. My instinct is always to kind of really plan it. You just saw me going pretty crazy here, trying to kind of plan out the project. But I'm going to try to kind of get away from this and just start to kind of see what happens. For example, like I haven't done research on what the latest 3GS framework is. I don't know what the proper framework is for doing multiplayer. I know there's been a ton of parts of his thread where Levels kind of said, what he's used. So what I'll probably end up doing is going through and finding any information I can on how he kind of put this together, if I need it. But the goal is to kind of really just not overthink it. So yeah, like he's saying 3GS, 3D Engine. If you need physics, ask to use Canon.js. So like these are good things that I'll remember. But we're gonna go from here. Okay, so let's give it a try. And the first thing we want to find out is like, actually, does the AI model understand what flight control is? Now, if I was doing this for a coding project, what I would typically do is I'd actually do this first. So I'd probably say PRD, which in product world is called, in product world, it's like my brain is just gone completely. Product requirement document is essentially like, what are we building, right? So if I was a product manager, I would do something like this. And I would write out, fly control, 3D, air traffic control simulator in 3JS. So I might say something like, and it's kind of auto creating this for me, and I'll make it a little bit bigger so you guys can see it on the stream. I think it's probably about as good as I can go. So we're going to say, we are creating a 3D air traffic control simulator in 3JS that is a combination of flight control, an old iOS game, and Traycon 1.2, a old PC/Windows game for version, and then I would sort of write out like, here's the background, the description of what we want, here's the features it needs, here's the requirements. I'll add to this and kind of use this from here and there, but for the most part, I want to try to kind of avoid that. So I'm just going to type this into the prompt. I'm going to leave this on audio. I'm going to say we're creating an air traffic control simulator in 3JS. It's a combination of flight control and Traycon 1.2. The first goal, we want to we want to set up a basic 3JS project, use whatever framework you feel appropriate, and create the basic layout of the game. This will be a fixed camera. Let's start with overhead, but this may change. Game running in 3D. We should have a basic terrain with some, grass, some grass, water, etc., plus 2 or 3 different airports on screen. We should have planes that are taking off and landing at different airports or from off screen. We should be able to control the path of the airplane by clicking and drawing a path on the screen. Planes should disappear when landing or going off screen. There should be 3 different... Well, actually, we don't even need to go that far. I think that's probably enough to start. Let's just kind of see what it gets. And then I think I'm going to give it that screenshot to kind of, I don't know for sure if it'll know flight control, but I'll kind of give it this basic. Can I save this file, copy? Uh-oh, I don't want that. Let me just go over here and see if I have that screenshot still. I don't. Can I save this file? Oh, there we go. Copied it. Okay, so there we go. So yeah, I mean, this is it. And it's going to have this document. We'll keep this updated. And I have no idea yet how we're going to deploy this. I have lots of options, but I kind of want to see, kind of from a vibe coding standpoint, I just want to see what what Cursor will do. So right now what we're seeing is it's sort of talking through. I'll kind of explain Cursor here as we go, so you guys can kind of get a feel for how it works. And I'll see if I can get. Let me just see if I can get a bit of a bigger screen here on the live stream. There's lots of ways to do this, by the way. People sometimes just use ChatGPT and then copy and paste and all this stuff. You can use Claude, which run on your desktop. There's Windsurf, there's Lovable. There's a whole bunch of ways to go after this. But I'm a big Cursor fan personally, because it's just it's a proper coding IDE. So it's like VS Code. If you coded, it's just a fork of VS Code. It has all the VS Code features. We can put stuff onto GitHub. We can, look at all of our files. We can do just anything you can do in a normal coding editor. You can do in Cursor. The difference is that Cursor has autocomplete, which you saw. So I can say features, and I can start to say a 3D, a terrain based on, but yeah. Oh, that's another part I forgot to mention. I do a lot of stuff with real world data. And actually, if I can get this far, I will love to bring in actual proper maps. Like I'm thinking like a condensed version of the United States, or some type of cool thing that feels like a real actual map. So anyway, back to this. I'll keep this document up to date, but if you start to add stuff in here, this chat will actually pick it up and we'll start to implement it into, questions and prompts and stuff. So let's see what it's essentially what it's trying to do. So it's basically saying it's going to create the game. It's going to use Next.js. Great. That's fine. I'm fine with that. It's asking pure 3JS, React 3 Fiber. Oh, it's kind of asking option analysis. I was hoping it would use React 3 Fiber, to be honest. But I just kind of want to see what it does. So let's just kind of let it do its thing, and we can always debug it as we go. I don't quite like what it's about to do right now, but we're going to see. And I've got it running on YOLO mode, it's called, which YOLO mode is like, in Curse is like developer's worst nightmare. Like it will run commands for me. It will literally just do whatever. So it can get real crazy and it can do some stuff and mess things up. But I will set up GitHub probably after this session tonight, and I'll like put it all on GitHub, and that way we've got history. And if we break something, we'll have version control. And I actually can ask Cursor to add, to do commits and to update the code on GitHub and all that stuff. But I just want to see what we get out of this. So right now it's writing the code. So this is called Cursor Agent, which is kind of the default mode. So every time it goes in here, it created this directory and file structure and installed a couple dependencies. So these are React 3 versions, I guess. Fiber and Dre, I'm never really sure the difference, but they're part of React 3 or next 3JS. It's then installed that, and now it's gone ahead and started to create files, right? Page, da, da, da. And if you look over here, we now have in our source folder, we've got a page file and we've got some components, and it's starting to create it. Like, no idea what we're going to get here, but we're going to kind of just keep iterating and seeing where this ends up. So let's see if this is actually where. So it's saying I can run this with pnpm dev. So let's just try it and let's find out what we get. Pnpm dev, so not set up. So like normally what I would do with this is I would actually, like if I was doing a web project, I would install Next.js. I would install a baseline template project. I would set everything up, and then I would start to code. So I'm going to let this go. I'm going to say pm dev isn't working. So, this is the contrast you get, right? At one level, if you know the issue, so I should have known that. You can obviously solve that yourself. You can go in and, it probably needs to just install the dependencies. It hasn't initiated the project. So actually probably what happened was, it's going to now probably go down a weird path. I just realized. This is really funny. I'm actually going to stop it. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to go back. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to roll it back. I wonder why I can't get that. Oh, it may have just deleted it, and it's probably going to be gone. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm going to start this here. I'm going to start this part over, and I'm going to give it the same instructions, but I'm going to say, use the most basic setup to start to get the app up and running. So what it basically is trying to do, and this is like a common thing. So he's doing the same thing. React V, Pure.js. Okay, this is going to be, I think, better. So what it was doing is it was trying to install Next.js, and this is something I've always noticed with these. The reason why you kind of set up your project in your framework first and then you start coding is because they have old information. So it'll try to install like the old version of Next.js, and then it tries to do from the template. And if you don't accept it, it thinks it got it installed. It goes through the process, it writes the code, and then it can't actually deploy it. And then it gets kind of confused and it goes backwards, and just you end up in this like really weird spot. I've done so many projects with Next.js that I just kind of like have a template where I run like the lightest version of Next.js. I install this thing called ShadCN, which is like for components. I make sure Tailwind's set up. I kind of just get the basics of a web application running, and then I tell Cursor like, here's what we're working on, and we start going. I don't think a Next.js project makes sense for this. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't feel like it does. But I want to kind of see if it will just kind of bypass that and do it a little bit quicker. So let's see what it did. It should have tried to do that itself. I think it actually failed. So let's just go here. Oh yeah, so it didn't even set that up. It didn't even create a package JSON. It maybe thought it was already there. So I'm just going to give it that. These should have all been accepted. I don't know why that should have all been there. Getting this error. Let's see what happens. Make sure the stream is still going. All right, we're still flying here. Yeah, I think the goal here will be get something running in browser, try to get the basic functionality, and then probably tonight I'll think about whether, I wanted to put this in Next.js or if it's just, I remember doing a Three.js thing before, and I don't think it makes any sense. I don't think there's any reason that I can remember why we would want that. And I also think I should turn off these lint errors, and I wonder if that's coming from the Three.js stuff, because we're just trying to kind of get this thing up and running. But it's making a terrain component, a scene component, an airport component, an airplane. That feels good. It seems to be. This is what I think it did, and I got to go now and try to clean this up, because what I think it tried to do is I think it tried to create 3 different games. You can see up here, it created something under air traffic control, it created something under flight control, and it created something under source. So I'm going to do something here, because I think that probably is an issue. Oh yeah, we do have Sonnet Max now, which is cool. We should keep cursor fast in here. I want to turn on the ability for it to delete. I'm just going to turn it on the ability for it to delete, and I'm going to kind of find out what it did. So it was last working in app. So I think it's here now. This is where it's been working. So let's just find out if that actually is going to work. And I wonder if we've got to be in, we're in fly control. And then we're in fly control. And then, okay, so let me just try this. I don't think that's going to work yet. So let me just ask it. So, okay, I'm going to see what happens here. I'm going to say, look, I think you created multiple. And actually, by the way, I can show you this. I usually do it this way. So I don't know if this will actually work, but hold on. I don't know if that'll mess up on the stream, but I'm going to try this. So this is usually what I use. It's Super Whisper. So I'll just turn. So I think you might have actually created 3 different applications. I see a folder called air traffic control, one called fly control, and then a folder called source. It looks like you've been working in the folder called source. In that folder, I'm getting an error about not having a package.json. So what I want you to do is look at the other 2 folders, air traffic control and fly control. Tell me if that's an old file. Whatever we do, we want to focus obviously on one app. Okay, so what we're kind of doing here is we're just saying, like, whatever it did there on that first prompt, my microphone went way up. Whatever it did there on that first prompt, well, it's way up. I might have to turn that down. Turn this up. I don't know if the audio got crazy. So whatever it did on the first prompt, yeah, but see, this is this is kind of a mess. See, it wants to remove the air traffic. Okay, I'm going to just see what it did. So this one, it set up Vite. This one, it looks like also Vite. This one really is nothing. So let's try to go to CD into fly control, and let's just see what happens if we run this. Oh, is it, sorry, pnpm run dev, sorry. Okay, let's go try this. but we want to do this actually I've never actually used Vite, so this will be kind of a fun experience. Okay, so let's go, I'll bring this over so you can kind of see what I'm experiencing here. So nothing is going on at all on this. So let's just close this for a second and see what is going on. So let's close that. I don't think this was anything. There's nothing in here. So I think I can pretty safely get rid of this. So let's get rid of this one. I think it was working in here. There's nothing actually running in here. So let's just go, let's do this. Let's get rid of this. There's no files in here at all. There's an index, readme. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. Why did that happen? Okay. So I'm just going to say you were working in source. Please continue there and provide any instructions to get this running in browser. We are looking for the most simple 3JS setup for now. So just kind of saying, like, forget everything else. Let's just go here. See, it did it again. Why is it doing that? Is it because, So you just created a new folder called Fly Control instead of looking at the source folder. Why? All right, so I'm just going to work through it this way. Something feels, I got to say, like something feels off about, I'm going to let it do that. This is so interesting. I really, this is such a different experience for me doing this. I don't know if it's just part of me that's thinking there's something weird about what it's doing. And part of me is thinking that's just because maybe it's not following like a very simple, like Next.js framework where everything's laid out. Normally with Next.js, I know exactly what is running and how it's running. And like, this is exactly the way it should work. What's kind of scaring me here is that it's got, like, I just don't actually know if this is the right way to do it. And I don't know if the fact that if I was in a Fly Control subdirectory, I'm just going to let it go. I really don't know. Like, it's definitely can't be this. Like, there's definitely something wrong. Okay, let me just kind of say, like, let's take a step back. I'm not 100% sure what you're doing. You set up Vite, and I see the config files and package.json in the main directory, but I also see a new source folder with an app.tsx and index.css, but there was an original file with 4 components in it and an app.css and app.tsx and main.tsx. Please review the entire code base and help me understand your approach. So, this is getting into where, like, basically this is getting into this place where it's gone down a path that doesn't make sense. And it's like, we got to kind of bring it back to get like the basic app running. And this is where it's like, doesn't really matter what the app does. Doesn't really matter if it's functioning the way we want it. It's just like, can the app launch? And I probably should have turned off, again, this ability for it to run on its own. But I thought like it would be kind of fun to just let this thing go crazy. Okay, so this is cool. This is actually good what it's doing here. So it's saying the project structure should be fly control, source, components for airplanes, app, index, and CSX. Index, package. Okay, so it's basically, I think, seeing this, but what is this here? It also ran it on 5175, so I'm going to try that. Okay, so this is good. Okay, so we're somewhere. I'm guessing this is nonsense. So I'm going to just say, please confirm this isn't being used. App. So I should just make sure that that's actually the right file. So can I drag that in? Yeah, app and that. Get rid of terminal, get rid of this. Make sure these files are not being used. Okay, there we go. So if that's out, then at least we know this is running. This is good. We have the basics of something. Don't know what this is going to do yet, but we can build off of this, right? Okay, it did it. I think I have to turn that off. I don't know. If anyone's watching, they want to vote on this, feel free. But, you know, do I just hope this thing won't screw up and delete files? Or, you know, I think part of the fun of the vibe coding part is it's... All right, I'm going to let it go. We're just going to let go of control here. And if it wants to do that, all good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do run dev here. It's on 3. So it had 3 versions of it running. So we'll just get this back and running here. This should be, oh no. So look, it did. Okay, what is going on here? Are we in the right? Okay, let's close this and this. We're in the right place. Let's run terminal. What was its command it was running there? Its Vite could be different. Run dev, okay. Okay, there we go. All right, good. So we have something. We have something. Okay. All right. So this is a good probably time to start. So we'll do a new chat. So eventually these context windows get a little bit, they get a little bit confused because there's too much going on. So I think when you in Cursor, you do a new chat, it'll summarize the previous one and then it'll start a new one. That's the summary up here. So it kind of will give you context of what happened in the previous chat and then start over. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to say, all right, we have the basic app running in Three.js using Vite. Let's focus on some of the features. Here is the original flight control game. And this is where having what I did before, which it probably deleted. Oh, see, this is not. This can go. So it definitely deleted my PRD fly control, MD. So yeah, it did delete that, which is really annoying. Let me see if I can go. I'm just going to, I told it can't delete, but you have to usually say, let's just put in the RM for remove and see if that will do it. Okay. So this is where like having a product requirement document is really helpful because it now forgot what I originally said to it, right? So, if I had this document done and did once, it would always have that available. And I can always say, hey, check out the product requirement documents. This is going to be more helpful for kind of, getting you back on track. So it is definitely a good practice, but sometimes it's just like, you just say, let's go for it. So let's just say, do you remember flight control for iOS? So let's just see if it knows this, because this is actually important. Because if it knows this game and it understands how it works, I don't have to be overly prescriptive over how the actual game goes. Okay, so it says that it does. Okay, yeah, so there you go. So this is great. So it's saying it knows about drawing flight paths, knows about all aircrafts. Okay, so I'm going to grab our screenshot again. What we might be helpful here is, where's that Excel draw? I'll just grab this and I'll grab my browser. I'll just see, can I save this? Save to file, save. There we go. Save, replace. That's fine. And then I'm just going to get rid of that and I'm going to drop this in. I'm going to open and I'll just do desktop down. Here, let's just do this. It'll be a little bit easier. Let's go file, open, and let's go desktop. And let's go. Let's get that last file. Where did that go? Okay, there we go. Okay, great. So now we've got side by side. Okay, so now I can copy this as a PNG and I'll say, great, go ahead, use this screenshot from flight control as inspiration. All right, so let's just see where it gets. This one will be fun because now once you say hey, we've got this project's running, it's actually up and running, generally speaking, it's working. Obviously there's nothing actually working in the game itself, but at least here you protect yourself a little bit with this kind of vibe coding or AI coding. It's like, it shouldn't try to do too much to break the current implementation, which is kind of important, right? It's like, okay, I'm editing these airport files, I'm going in here and I'm trying to get the gameplay mechanics and stuff figured out, but at least it's probably not going to rewrite the entire app in a different framework or completely try to do things differently. So there's advantage to kind of getting your basic structure set up and then going. And if I had read Peter's, yeah, so it's doing some interesting stuff now. If I had kind of got his general outline, I'm sure there were certain things he kind of set up or figured out eventually that I could have kind of said, use this, use that. But it is going. It's really interesting. It's got Zoom, but nothing's actually happening. So let's just see what it says. Okay, it really didn't. Okay, so so what it's done is, first of all, it's got this landing zone, this landing zone, this one. So it's cool. It's got a plane. It looks like it's separated the terrain into grass and water. Cool, good enough. We can do all that later. Definitely doesn't have a flight path. Camera's fixed. Click and drag to draw a flight path. Flight paths will be visible. Okay. All right. The basics are here. I can just type. This would be better. So, all right. So the basics are here, but there is no actual gameplay mechanics that are starting. So in flight control, planes would enter from the outside edges of the screen each plane you would draw the flight path on, and it would follow that flight path to land on the actual airport. Then we would get score, which we don't need to worry about right now, but we need to get the basic functionality. So please add some type of implementation where planes are coming in from the edges, and then they'll continue in a straight path until I draw my path on screen towards the airport. That's currently not running. So let's see what it does. Yeah, so, you know, and as this is going, I'll think through it. So I think if I can get just the basic functionality of planes come in, they go in a certain direction. Oh, look, plane's moving. Okay. And I probably should have said, to be honest, like I was thinking about this right, I would have said, like, just use shapes. Let's get the basics down. But then, you know, whatever. Like, I mean, this stuff is definitely, we can keep expanding on it. I wonder if how I could turn off those linter errors, because I really don't care. Kind of want to just like take all the training wheels off this thing and see what it comes up with. I might have to ask it to do like a start game. Okay. Okay. So it's gonna respawn. It looks like. See if we get any airplanes coming in. No. No. No airplanes. Okay. No airplanes are coming in from the edges. I would say let's create like a start game button that initiates the actual beginning of the game. When you hit start game, start to bring airplanes into the edge, and then allow the flight path to be drawn. Also, there's sort of some zooming happening currently on the map, but I don't think we need that for now. We can just fix the camera position. Don't allow the game interface or the game area to expand beyond a small area on the screen. So we're going to see where it goes here. Yeah, like if I'm thinking through this, maybe I should just kind of write this. Oh, that's good. So we used to have a start game. Features. So, terrain. Okay, so a level has airports. Let's do airports and helipads. I think that's good enough. And helipads. Okay, it's interesting. Airport has airplanes come in from a random location from the edge of the game area and fly in that direction until told otherwise. Layer can click and draw, can click a plane, and then click and draw a flight path to a destination. Planes follow the flight path until chosen otherwise. So it's so funny. So let's see if it's doing here. Yeah, so there's something fundamentally off about what it's done. So let me just close that. And my first two thoughts is potentially so it looks like the game interface got smaller. It's not filling the entire screen, and I still don't see a single plane coming onto the screen for testing. Can you look at this? So, like, so, you know, my thoughts here are like, okay, this is interesting because, like, I think the 3GS thing, I'm pretty much fixed on. I don't want any kind of other weird game engine. It's definitely going to be 3GS because I definitely want this to turn into some 3D view, even if it's like an isometric fixed camera position. So I think this needs, this is non-negotiable. I do wonder if the fact that it's 3JS is messing it up a little bit in terms of how it's getting like the game area and interface. And obviously like it's not able to generate real terrain. So it's just using pixels. Like you can see that it's just using green pixels and blue pixels, which is actually completely fine for now. In fact, that is like, we can do the better designs and stuff later. Like I actually think that's a really interesting, just keep it like kind of Minecraft style. Like each one of these is an individual pixel. Okay, we've got something, kind of. This is so funny. All right. As progress, I saw planes flying in a single direction. I wasn't able to click the planes and change their direction though. So that's definitely needs to be done. The spawn rate's fine. Speed is maybe a little bit too fast, but that doesn't matter. The main thing right now is getting the planes to come in from the edges and then to be able to draw their paths and have them follow the new path. The approach should be click the plane once to select it, and then a second time click and drag to create the line or path for the airplane. I would probably slow the planes down to make it easier for the user to click the planes for now. So I should be taking my notes because a couple things that I'm kind of curious about, I'll just kind of drop in here as I go. This will be probably for research tonight. Why can I not just... Okay, questions. 1. Should we care about linter errors? Errors in Vite 3GS. Obviously, we have to deploy this at some point, so we will have to make sure things are working properly, but I don't actually know what's causing the linter errors. I assume because we're using TypeScript. Well, yeah, that would be why, but why are we using TypeScript? Is that a Vite thing? Is that just a decision it made? It doesn't feel like it needs to be done. So what's the best framework for a simple 3GS web app? Okay, let's see where we got here. Just kind of start game it. Okay. Now on, when I hit start game, it just turns to a white screen. Now when I hit start game, the screen just turns white. So I think like getting these questions answered will be really important. I think probably tonight for me to kind of do some more research here on the right way to do this. Like I know vibe coding, this kind of idea is just like you just build it and you just keep going, iterating, and like we'll eventually would get it. Like I know down this path, we will eventually get this running, and like we'll then can add the features. Like once you get a stable game running, then we can do all sorts of fun stuff. But I think fundamentally I would be at this point, I don't want to go too far without being like, why are we using Vite? Do we need Vite? How are we going to deploy this to the web so people can play it? Is there a framework that we should be using? You know, are we on the right version of 3G? Like I think there's just some basic stuff that I would like to get. And I also would like to figure out, should we try a 3/4 view isometric for 3GS? Because one of the things I'm worried about is that if I keep the view top down like we have right now, you know, we never actually see the 3D aspect of this, right? So we don't really see the planes properly. We don't see all these things. And I think flipping the camera to sort of like a 3/4 isometric, I think will make a big difference, because I think we'll be able to perceive elevation and height, which I'm pretty sure we're going to want to build into this game in some way. And I think it'll help us like make sure like it actually does start to look right when we build it. So yeah, let's see what this does. Okay, we have a plane. Okay, so there we go. So a little bit of improvement. So, okay, we have a couple, actually, let's do this. Let's start a new one, okay? So let's just kind of start fresh. So start with a new issue, right? Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we have a couple issues that I'm noticing, and I'm going to lay them out, but I want you to review the code base and just make sure we're not duplicating anything or doing anything on top of what we currently are doing that we shouldn't. The reason I say this is because I see some artifacts in the actual airports, and it almost feels like there's multiple objects or project on top of each other. The issues that I'm actually seeing though in the code or in the project is that I can't click a plane to be able to select it to draw its path, but I also have noticed the screen goes white in the middle of playing the game when I do click on the airplane after some point. So yeah, I'm trying to kind of say like, my instincts are saying that something is not set up right. And whether that's the Vite thing, or didn't make any sense, or we should go back to like just a basic 3GS, like a basic 3GS project should just be like an HTML file. And I think it's just like, it's HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And I'm wondering why, like, what are we gaining here from what we're doing? And do we want to reverse that and say like, just go back to the basics? That's the first part. And then as I kind of said before, the second part is, you know, are we on the Red Best framework? Should we change the view? But I want to stick to this. The goal for this stream tonight, and we've been going for, how long have we been going for? An hour and 30. Okay. So I kind of made a deal with myself that I would try to do this for 2 hours a night for the duration of the contest and see where I get. So I think I'd like to get to a place tonight. Like if I can just get, there's airports, there's planes, I can click a plane, I can draw the plane. If the plane touches the airport even, don't even care about flight paths, that's success. If two planes hit each other, it's a failure and the game's over. I think if I could just do that, I would be pretty happy for tonight. So let me just see where we're at. Okay, so they can highlight. Oh, okay. Whoa, all right, we got something. Okay, so the plane, oh, so that's really interesting. So the plane I can click, and then I can, all right, hey. Interesting. Okay, there's progress here. I'm going to do a new chat. I'm going to say, all right, a couple things I want to fix. First of all, can we essentially zoom in the game so that we see the airports a little bit closer? Right now, the airports and helipad are tiny dots in the middle of the screen. And then can you double check that there's no extra artifacts on top of the airports? What I'm seeing right now is the airports have, looks like a kind of a tarmac style, but there's also like a secondary light green color. So for now, we should just have basic airport and heliport and the map zoomed in so we can see them up close a little bit better. That was probably like there's a bit of a, that may not have been the best idea what I just did. I was going to make sure my stream is still going here. Also should have recorded that. So, oh, this is really weird. I'm telling you, there's something not right. I'm going to flip this off. I'm going to go back to, let's go. You know what? I'm going to use max. I don't care. I'll burn up some credit. I just want to see like if I can get this back in on track. So I'm going to go to max, which is the new one that they just came up with. And I'm going to use thinking. And I'm just going to say, we are building a clone of flight control in Three.js. We are focused just on getting game running now, not deployment and optimization. We want to eventually make the view 3/4 isometric, but for now we are just keeping the camera over top. Please, I'm having multiple issues with the current implementation. Can you look from fresh eyes and make any changes necessary? I'm just going to give it full round to see where it does this. So this is a brand new model. I think it was like came out an hour and a half ago. I actually don't know if it's a new model. Yeah, it is a new model from. I saw the announcement. I can't remember if it was a new model from Anthropic. Maybe it's just. It could just be a cursor thing, but it's this 3.7 Sonnet, and then it's max, and we're on like kind of. Okay, so let's see what it's thinking. Building a flight control game is having multiple issues. Let's look at the root directory and then the main game, which is great. So it looked at 9 items in the root directory, which is good. Look at the source directory, which is good. It's looking at components. Let's examine it. It's looking at everything. This is exactly what I wanted. So now it's starting to fix. So it's going to fix the orthographic. That's pretty cool that it found the issues with path following. Okay, so we'll see. Maybe, if this Sonnet 3.7 is, yeah, if it's good. And I think what was happening, I have a suspicion because I was on auto with cursor. So you have different models that you can use. Like all these tools are doing is they're giving context to the models. They're asking the models to write the code. They're compiling it all and they're like putting it back into the app and then overwriting, like editing what's currently there. But they're still using just standard LLM models under the hood. So if you pick auto, cursor has the ability to sort of tell you, this is already looking better. I already see frames per second, which is great. Yeah, just something about the way we started. I have a suspicion that it was using a bad model, like something where it didn't have full context of the entire app. It was trying to do it in a way that didn't make any logical sense. And then it kind of got itself in this weird spot. And it like, I think the fact that I was on auto was probably a big mistake. And I do auto a lot when I'm doing this with other projects because I kind of trust that it's like, it'll know whether I need a more complex model based on my inquiry, but that was probably a mistake. And it almost is tempting to just start it like completely from scratch and let it just start over. Because I just think I really got off to the wrong with the multiple directories, the way it was structured. But I think it's better to just kind of get this up and running. And then worst case, we can, flip it tomorrow, get rid of V, make some changes, whatever we got to do. I think I just want to kind of let this go. I'm really curious about this new model has got a cool thinking. So we're in like Max. So this is what, so there's like, and if you're into this AI stuff, Grok, that came out, Grok 3 has this thinking model, and really all it's doing with the thinking model is it's essentially giving the model like more time to problem solve. So a lot of times with a lot of these models, it's like you ask it a question, it tries to give you an answer as quickly as it can. And a lot of the deep thinking models are like kind of going back over their work. Like they're rethinking, like, did I do this right? Is this the right approach? They're testing it like kind of internally, and they keep going and going and going and going until eventually they give you the answer. It just takes a long time. So Grok did this, and that's what most people have been using for coding. They've been using Grok, and then they've been like copying and pasting in, kind of stitching things together. And truthfully, Grok is really good, but like I'm just not willing to do anything until I get Grok in here. Because right now we only have Grok 2 as opposed to Grok 3. So when Grok 3 is in here, I think we're in good shape because we'll use this. Like, it's just so much easier to work in Cursor than it is to be like in Grok, asking questions, copy and pasting. So I think that the answer here is to keep this on Sonnet, because like you already can tell it's like really going through everything. It's checking every file. Yeah, so now this is in really, really fun. And I don't have this running, so I'm going to actually do this right now. This is actually really cool. I forgot completely. I'm going to turn on. So I have this thing called MCP tools. So what I got to do is I have to go into, I'm not used to using Chrome, but I'm going to go into tools. I'm going to use to developer tools. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to tools. I'm going to go to developer tools, and I'm going to turn on MCP tools, auto discover. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to go into, I never remember the MCP browser tools. So what MCP is, I don't know why I try to explain this stuff as I go. It's like I'm not trying to teach it, but so we want to do is run this. Hopefully this works. I've had issues with this. There we go. Okay. This is super cool if this works. So what it is in my browser, I have this like little app running called Browser Tools. And now I have a connection to it in Cursor. So you saw what it did. It actually up here was like, let's see if it looks good. And it called a screenshot tool, but it didn't work. So now in the future, what should be able to happen, I'll just kind of bring this down, is that it should be able to call a screenshot tool in here and actually screenshot what it looks like. So it can now visually be like, oh, he asked me to make it look like this screenshot. It doesn't. I can change this. And it can also check the console logs and the network tab, which is incredible because if there's an error, it will actually see it and will fix it. So I don't have no idea what to expect here, but I'm going to try this out and see what happens. Looks like nothing. Oh, something's happening here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. It looks like you may have done a lot, but there may have been some issues. So, to be clear, even though we're using Three.js, for now, this should be a top-down game. I'm going to give you a screenshot of what flight control looks like so you can use it as a reference. Currently, when I launch the game, I see a few trees at the bottom and then nothing actually happened. So please troubleshoot what is going on with the implementation. As a reminder, we are just trying to get a simple Three.js app up and running locally in my browser. We're not worried about any kind of optimization or deployment yet. So I'll give it that question, and then I'm going to go back again here. I'm going to go back to, what happened? Yeah, I'm going to go back to here. I'm just going to say, hey, like just a reminder, this is what we're going for. And we're going to see. I honestly, I think if we had started with the Sonnet model and started totally from scratch with the right instructions about not caring about, deploying, and I really think it would have just probably built this thing differently. It's all good because eventually we want to put it on the internet for people to play. It's just, I think we wasted a lot of time, to be honest. So let's see what happens. Okay, so there you go. So see there we're getting somewhere. So I'm liking that. Like I like the fact that I see now here actually with something that kind of looks like an airport. Can I get it to change the name to fly control? Because I don't want to get sued. See, already like the detail here. I don't know what these are. I'm thinking for the first version, what I was actually thinking I end up might doing is I think like one of the first levels in flight control was like an island. So I may just say make an island because I think it's like easy to visualize. Like just pick an island, put a bunch of airports on it, and then like it just, I think it might be a good first version to kind of do that. And then, yeah, I think we're going to try to, we're going to try to get to, how much time we got? I think we're just going to try to get to a place where we feel like we've got like a really crappy version of a flight control clone. And then I think from there we can start to like really like expand it out. Also need to ask it about linting because I feel like it's just wasting time. All right, let's see what it's doing. So it's now working on the train. So I'm wondering, I'm hoping when it does the train, it fixes. Interesting what it's doing there. Like there's something here. This is what I meant before. I'm going to get it to get a screenshot because this is where like, what is that? Is that supposed to be clouds maybe or ice? I'm going to see if I can find the flight control island level. Yeah. Where's my island? Oh, there's aircraft carrier. Planes control. Someone did a clone. So they didn't get sued. This was it. Well, that's planes control. I'm trying to think of like the most iconic. This is still what I kind of remember. Yeah, like this. Yeah, I mean, I think they were very simple. I remember the aircraft carrier. It was pretty simple. There we go, flight control. I think this might be. We may watch this after this video. Actually, let's jump this in now. 13 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, see that right there? So this is a good example. See that? So that's a good example of there's a screen. There's like we have the three planes with their destinations, and then we have the plane off score here. So I'm going to use that one. Okay, so now it's trying to run Veed again. So I'll do is I'll kill. I'm going to kill this version. Why is it doing that? Okay, let's go back here. So I'm going to kill this version that's running. And then I'm going to let it run its own. So when it, oh, it's interesting. Okay. Okay, so it's running on 5.1.4 now. This is another crazy cursor thing that honestly drives me crazy. And I'm sure I could do cursor rules. Actually, that made me think of something. So this is an issue that it always wants to restart it, and then it finds that the port is not open, so it runs it on a separate port, which messes up. Like normally what we want is it just running on one because that's the one we have the browser tools. So I have to, okay, so let's see what this has got going on here. So it's got planes landed, it's got high score. but it's crashing. Okay. I don't know if this is progress or not, but I'm gonna let it take. Can you take a screenshot of the current version and see what you think is wrong? I'm just curious, like, So let's see if this works. So it did save the screenshot and it copied it in, which is great. I do think there's a weird issue with that, to be honest. I've noticed this before because it calls this and then it has to create this, and it's always like in the middle of a task, and then it automatically copies it in and sends it. I think that's a bug with that MCP tool. So checking the console logs. Like my first thought is like, what is this? This needs to go if that's like a cloud or something. This is fine. I don't know what these are. I like the fact that, like, honestly, these airports look good. It needs to zoom in and get rid of all this other stuff, and I think it might be okay. Then I got to find out why it's crashing and like whether the planes are working or not. Okay, I'll just let it go. So while this is going. Seeing if this, okay, so this was another good example. So grab this sample here. I remember this now. There were seaplanes. It was kind of cool. There's a seaplane there that landed. But I'm not worried about like all this is really simple. We can do this later. It's just I want to see if it can get the basic. And I'd like to get this full screen. I'll just take some notes. This should take up the full browser screen. I mean, also, I could be like, yeah, that could be part of the problem. Full browser screen. We have some weird, I mean, I don't know what it just did there. That was whatever, that was awful. What did it just do? Actual pixels. We have some weird, yeah, this is unfortunate. It went backwards, 100% went backwards, whatever it just did to the terrain. Yeah, and there's two, how do I put this? Like, the general like starting approach, again, like if you kind of give, I think, enough restrictions and you just let it like really try its first time to do things, yeah, it still wants to restart that, and that's going to drive me crazy. It's going to do that every time. I'm going to do the cursor rules. Let's just see if anything's actually working. Okay, so there's some good news here. It kind of let me draw a path, and it looks like it's almost following it. Okay. So I'm basically going to tell it, like, get the full screen. Like, I think if we can get this thing full screen, That's going to help because we can see what's going on. The terrain back to where it was better. I'll try to eliminate those clouds. The airports actually got worse. So I got to go back to that. But then like, I'd like to just see what it's actually happening here with these things that are airplanes. So you can kind of get a feel for like where we're running into issues, because I did tell it like completely rethink it. We have to get to a place where you're like, all right, we're locked in. We're in a good spot. Like this is actually running okay. Then we should probably stop there, get this committed to GitHub, or at least like just do an internal, like a local commit or a local commit with Git. And then we should get very specific about like one thing, like, okay, we want to fix this, do that. Because otherwise with these models, especially the smarter ones, like the more bigger models you use, like I'm using this thinking thing, the more you use this stuff, the more they will try to go further and further. They will like overthink it and fix too many things. So we're going to have to kind of lock that in a bit and figure out how to tell it, like just fix this one problem. Like full screen is a good example. Like just fix this one issue. And again, it should be able to screenshot my screen. It should, and I can even find those. I'll bring those up. Like you could actually end up seeing what it's screenshotting. So I'm gonna see if I can find them. I go into my downloads folder. They go into MCP screenshots. Let's see if I can grab one. Yeah, so like it sees this. Like it should see what that is, and it should be like, that's not right. We definitely don't want this. So it should be able to pick that up. See, even this like is a good example, right? Like it says like, let's fix the remaining issues. And then it says, let's fix this flight path. Like I never mentioned anything about this flight path TSX file as being an issue. So it either like went and actually, I wonder if it actually tried to take a screenshot and then saw my note. Like it's gone in and trying to fix this thing that's not even part of the issue. I don't know what the heck's going on. Okay, I'm going to stop it because I feel like it's kind of gone off. So let me tell you exactly what to fix. First, only fix the full screen issue. I want to see the airports and planes zoomed in, filling the screen. Don't worry about flight path or terrain or color. So at least I'm kind of just saying like, let's focus on that. And let's see if it's smart enough to not try to go further than that. And honestly, like what I'm kind of leaning, okay, that's good. So that's a great step. Like, I think this is smart that we're just gonna like, I don't know what these things are, but like, I just want, oh God, I just want the planes like this. Like, I think this is all that's needed for now. The planes can just come in. I don't know what it's doing at all. What the see, this must be this model. I'm going to have to manually do this. Like, generally speaking, Claude 3.5 was really good. Claude 3.7 people said, like, in some cases is better, but it also does this. And this thinking model must be like just genius level, trying to fix everything that's not broken. I mean, I just said zoom in, it fixed it. And then it was like, okay, so I'm going to stop. Okay, let's do this. Let's go back. Let's go back here. Okay. Let's do this and let's try to go back to 3.5. Why is it not an option? Let's turn this off. Let's go here. I have a feeling this is going to do this quickly and it's going to work. Or we're going to find out that this is not. Okay, it's going to try. Okay, see that? It's okay, so this is really good. I mean, I'm teaching myself as we go here. It's not like that was really great. It's like, see that 3.5 is just like, okay, there's the issue. Here it is. I fixed it. That was it. That thinking model is dangerous. That thing is going off on its own place, and I have no idea where it's going. So, okay, I'm going to now do the next thing. So next task is going to be this. So I want to give a layout that I think I'm happy with. So I'm going to go back to my screenshots and I'm going to say, I'm going to pick let's do this. Okay, here's a screenshot. The next thing I want you to do is just focus on getting the basic airport structure right. Style isn't important here, but do your best to make one heliport and 2 runways in the general layout of the screenshot. So let's just see if it can do this one thing. I'm curious how well it does, but I just want a helipad and I want the runways and I want them to hopefully stay here. I just know that I got burned by this config. No, okay. There. Okay, this is better. This is good enough. Can you fix the terrain now to show grass or ground or water similar to the screenshot? See if it can just do that terrain thing. It's a bit sloppy. Okay. This is okay. It looks kind of like an island. I like it. Let's keep it as is. Is there any way we can increase the resolution though of the pixels to make it look a little bit more realistic or add a little bit of texture? Nothing crazy, just add a little bit of style to this. Just because while it's currently on this, I think if I can just get that terrain looking okay, I think our current setup is like good to work with than we had before. And then I'm going to fix this issue with all these airplanes flying around. That's a little better. Now there's black. Hopefully it fixes that. I'm trying to say is like the pixel density, let's call it. Like there's a little bit too sharp, blocky edges for the edges of the grass and the ground's actually now black. Take a screenshot if you need to see what it currently looks like. So now this is where it should call that MCP. It should grab a screenshot, or maybe it'll just try to do it without, but it should be able to see. It's a little better, but I don't know. It's the pixel thing I can't quite figure out. It shouldn't need to be. It should be able to generate, even if it's like very simple, like Minecraft style. It should, like, you could see the pixels are small for this. Like it shouldn't need to have these big block areas. I wish I had a view of the island. Oh, I don't know what it's doing here. I finally wonder if it's because we're running in. Oh, this is getting a little frustrating. All right, this is bad. It looks like there's just multiple textures here. Please take a screenshot and let me know what you think. Let's just see if I just strictly tell it to take a screenshot and see if it looks at it. Okay, so now it's going to call a screenshot tool. Let's see what it thinks. No, see, this is it. Okay, this is a problem. So I'm over explaining this as I go. It like doesn't understand. It's like, okay, it starts to fix it, and then the screenshot comes in, and it's like, oh, that's what it should look like, and it tries to fix it. So I'm going to go back to this one. This is the reference. I'm asking if you can make the transition from the water to the, see, but then it's going to try to get rid of it. I'm not really sure the right way to do this. Almost want to draw it. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go back. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to where I thought. This is probably the best place we were. Let's stay here. I think we're getting into, like, we're going to end up in a bad spot. So let's do a new one. And let's say, all right, we're in a good place. I have some questions. I see some medium-sized white circles and squares that appear to be going across the screen. Those look like airplanes. And I think that makes sense. But there's a bunch of these almost transparent squares moving around on the screen. Can you please look at the code and figure out what those might be? So what I'm trying to do is figure out what is this, like what's going on in here? Because I feel like we load this, we start it. I feel like these are the planes, right? And yeah, in fact, perfect. Like, look at that. There, so that plane is following that path. Okay. Okay. I think this is interesting. I'm going to have to take a quick washroom break. I might come back. We're a little bit over 2 hours, but I think I like to spend half an hour because I think like the actual basic gameplay mechanics might actually work here in a second. And then I got to try a couple more things. So I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back. And yeah, just hang tight. As I discovered that probably was streaming for the last half an hour on mute. Oh man, I'm gonna do this to myself. Okay, we're seeing if this works now. Okay, there, I like that. See, yeah, there we go. This is cool. Okay, let's see if we can land a plane. Okay, plane is kind of landing, but not quite. Okay, this, we're getting somewhere. Okay, cool. So let's see. We're gonna try to land that. They're definitely stopping. I'm okay. I just feel like we're probably not gonna be able to get both of those. Okay. Okay, this is the closest we've gotten. The planes appear to be turning red when they get inside of the airport landing area, but we're not getting like our aircraft landed score go up, and they're not disappearing. There also doesn't appear to be a landing area for the helicopters. Everything else is working fine. It's good enough. Like, we can move the planes around. That's the first step. It's not perfect, but whatever, they're going. And then now the issue is, if we can get those planes to disappear and the aircraft landed, we're in good shape. And then I just need to figure out, I just need to figure out then if, if that works and the score goes up, I'll get rid of the score because I think the score looks like just a timer. So I'm just watching it. So I get rid of the score. I'll just get the aircraft landed. I'm just like, my brain is in 3D right now. I'm just like thinking about how could you, like, if I could just watch the plane automatically land, even if I clicked on the airport and I could, okay, let's see. Okay, I don't see those changes. And I don't think there's collision, to be honest. I like how those things spin like that, but no. All right, I don't actually see any of your changes. There is no collision between aircraft or helicopters right now, and looks like there is no landing area over top of the helipad. You could take a screenshot of the screen if you need to know, but you should know the helicopter position of the helipad and make sure there's a landing area there. And also, when the planes do get in the landing area, the counter for aircraft landed does not go up and they don't disappear. So let's see that. Yeah, it was good that it took the screenshot and it figured that out. It makes me nervous. I just saw it flash about 3 helipads. That makes me really nervous. Not optimal. I think I might just I might actually like close it. Just rerun it just to make sure there's nothing weird cached or whatever. Okay. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, plane comes in. Can the plane land? Can the plane land? Okay, no, plane doesn't land. This is like one of these weird things that's just not. Okay, let's try to collide these planes at least. Oh my, yeah, you can't. Makes it hard to collide them. No, okay. 044. No collision between aircrafts. There is no landing area on the landing pad. The aircraft landing counter does not work, and the airplanes don't disappear. 0 for 4. This is where you start getting frustrated. Frustrated with the AI that's doing all your work for you. You start going, what the heck? Why can't you figure this out? How would you do this if you started over? You would say, please recommend the optimal 3GS deployment, set it up and get like a hello world, get a dot in the middle. And then you would probably then get the camera fixed, get your scene set up, and then you would add in, the airports and stuff, and then you'd build up. I feel like probably by going crazy on that first prompt and really letting it just go nuts, I feel like that probably to be funny. I should at the end of this, before I'll probably just save the code and then put it on GitHub and then go. I think it would be really funny just to ask it to change the camera view and see what happens. Okay, so we still don't have a helipad here. The helicopters got fast. It's now game over. What is going on? I don't get what part of that it's struggling with. No. All right. Okay. Let's just reset this. Let's try 3.7. Should I go to Matt? No, let's just go 3.7. Okay. All right. We're running into a few issues. I just want to walk through them. Actually, let's go to this max model without thinking. Okay, we're running into a few issues. Let me explain them. The first one is that planes, when they enter the landing area for the runways, are not disappearing, and the planes landed count is not going up. The second issue is seems to be no collision detection between planes. If two planes or a plane and an airplane or two airplanes come together, the game is instantly over. Third, there seems to be no zone for helicopters to land in. The airports have this little kind of yellow flashing area at the end of the runway indicating their location. But the helipad doesn't have that. So that makes me think that there's no landing area for the helipad. Please review all of that and make sure it's working. So I don't know. We're on this max. I don't know. Thinking. Okay, I think I know what I did. Thinking is just where they just explains out loud what it's doing. And I think this max is like the crazy one that caused a lot of the issues at the beginning. So we're going to find out how it does this. There may even be, I don't know, there may even be some weird stuff that got baked in at the beginning. I have to review it all. Did the planes get a destination that they had to go to that they weren't, does it know planes, helicopters are supposed to land at the heliport and the airport? There's just a bunch of stuff that. Let's see. I don't feel like it's going to do it. Okay. Okay, that didn't fix. Looks like the runway, looks like the helicopter has spots now. Okay, that worked. That was good. Okay, the helicopter disappeared. Okay, that's good. Okay, all right. Let's try. Okay, okay, that's good. Okay, that worked. Other than these things, just are not. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, now let's try to. Okay, so I see what's going on. So these things were actually just stopping somewhere that's not actually right on. Maybe they had a destination that they. Okay. All right. We got it. Okay. Okay, this is better, but there's a couple issues. First of all, the helicopters seem to be great. They seem to be always disappearing when they hit the target. I want to make sure that the airplanes can land at either of the two airports. So make sure that there's no like specific airport they need to land in. And I'm noticing that sometimes the airplanes don't quite end up in the actual landing area and they disappear. So what I'd like you to do is make the landing circle bigger, almost the size of the helicopter one, and make sure that the range that as long as the airplanes enter that area, they're going to disappear and be complete. And the last thing is that the collision is not quite working. The counter, though, for the airplanes landed is. Okay. I think this is progress. Like it should be, aircraft landed. This part, it just doesn't seem like they're quite, like they're kind of getting stuck. But the helicopters seem fine. The planes are just getting stuck, though. Yeah. I also got to turn off that linting. Where is linting? I'm going to ask it to just turn off linting after this. I'd rather deal with that later. Oh my God, it's creates 4 airports. Oh no. It's crazy, like that model, like what they did to that model to make it just decide to like, it goes crazy and it just does like, where in what world did it come up with that it needed 2 more runways? I'm just going to kind of interrupt it and see if I can get it back. And then while this is happening, let's just see what it did. Yep. We're still having issues with the airplanes landing. They are seemingly getting stuck inside of the landing area, but we're not actually seeing them disappear or showing up at landed. Can you please explain why? I'm just waiting for it to create extra airports now. I feel like it's like, well, we're 3 hours in. Okay, now it's added a red part. It's like now it wants to like debug it. It's like that model is just crazy. Like it just goes off the rails and wants to do way more than you ask it. We don't need to like it wants to now what does it want to do? And then it goes back and it wants to fix something with the airplane now. I think I don't think it. My guess is it didn't fix any of those issues. That's my guess. Okay, that kind of worked. That's good. This thing is a nightmare. It's still not getting it. Oh, it's way off. Okay, we got to go way back and get rid of this. Okay, I'm going to try like a couple more things. Okay, let's go here. I'm going to go back to 5. All right. I'm having a couple issues. I want you to really focus and try to fix these. First of all, the landing area for the airports. We need to make sure that any plane can land at any airport, and all it has to do is go inside the landing area currently indicated by a flashing yellow circle. Please make sure that logic is correct and that when planes go into that area, they shrink, disappear, and the score gets updated as a plane landed. Secondly, make sure that the helicopter pad has the same effect. I believe the helicopter pad has been working reliably, so check how the helicopter pad is working versus the airport runway landing. I'm just going to focus on that one. Yeah, I think my observation here is definitely like I think I definitely don't I don't have a lot of excitement out of trying to make like a 2D game like this. So I think I'm kind of going to make this decision overnight, but I do think that I'm definitely going to go 3D. Whether I lock the camera or not, we're going to see. But I'm still going back to my original idea that it's like if this was successful, I got this running. I could then make the model airplanes in 3D myself. I could make the world in 3D. I could incorporate some 3D scenes. I think AR is fun. I think getting the mechanics of getting planes in some type of 3D space to like how to control them, to get them landed I think that's where I want to get right. I think if I get that right, then I can start to think about like the game mechanics and how it goes multiplayer and all of that stuff. I really think that's the big challenge here is can I just get a 3D version of this. And I think I'm wasting a lot of time. Like, it's like, look, it's like connecting vectors. It's like, I think it added another runway again. And I don't know what that is. Like maybe there's duplicates. Now, like, it changed the size of this. Oh, it's like, I think I have to think about this in 3D space. There's just no way. It's back to like the same problems. Like, they're going through, they're not working. I'm so stubborn that I wanted to see it. Okay, for some reason this feels like it went backwards. They're still not, the planes are still not disappearing, and now the actual airport landing area and the heliport landing area got smaller. If anything, it should get bigger. Like, the basic idea is, can we get the airplanes to go into that area and disappear and the score to go up? Can you please try to work on that? You feel yourself getting frustrated like with this, and it's something, it's really interesting because like I've been thinking about this a lot, like from a product standpoint. You know, I think there's these two contrasting approaches. Like, one is a very messy, you just sort of like give it the big thing, you make it, build it, and then you like course correct these small things, right? You get them, you know, you just kind of give it like full freedom and then you drop down. The other option's like build slow and like do step by step. Like, again, get the camera right, get the, you know, like it's how you would build it if you were building it, you know, in code, or you're building it like video game, anything you would do, you do from like simple to like basic stuff right, and you build up to it. Whereas this kind of vibe coding idea is almost the opposite. You almost like just go for the big thing first, and then you sort of like correct it as you go. And I think that the intention of this is cool because it's just a different approach to doing things. But I find myself conflicted here because I feel like we're into these like weird nuances, and it's just like, why are we still struggling with the same thing? Like the same problem over and over again. Look, like it can't get it. Like, okay, so like, why does that work? So like, here's the thing. So can you explain to me why the helicopters 100% reliably end up properly going into their area and landing, whereas the planes don't? I'm almost thinking there might be a duplication issue. So let's do this. Let's just eliminate one of the runways. So we simply have a landing area for the planes, a landing area for the helicopters, one runway, one heliport. Make sure they are implemented exactly the same so that the helicopters land in the helicopter area, planes land in the plane area, and everything works. So let's try that. Like, is that part of the problem, you know, of there being, the helicopters seem to just reliably go in and they work. Where's the planes? Like, am I sending the plane to the wrong area? You know, it's like kind of my first thought, right? Like, why does that plane, you know, why does that plane stop in here? Is there another part? Okay, that's good. Still the linting issue. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is like going to be a big learning lesson. I think my instinct to just start slowly and plan this out and set things up the right way with the right environment, like get a basic 3GS system running, get the right framework in place, set everything up with like the right cursor rules. Like, I think that was right. And I think I wasted probably 3 hours just sort of trying to do this way more. I guess, in like the vibe coding style than I would have done if I had just done this project on my own. I'm definitely feeling this kind of like weird frustration here of like how simple this thing is and how it just can't get what seems to me to be very logical, like object disoverlaps disappear. But I think it comes down to probably how this originally got created, the entire process of like Three.js, and like I'm using a 2D. I wonder if like, is Three.js commonly used in 2D games? Just kind of curious if. See vector 3 types like. Yeah. Yeah, orthographic. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think I have a feeling I'm almost tempted. I might even do it. You know what? I'm going to do it. This is like such a frustrating little thing. Like I'm almost just kind of like really curious. I'm going to try something. Okay, so I'm going to do, so I'm just going to go off screen here. So I'm going to go into my projects. I'm just going to create fly. I'm going to call this fly control. .3D. Okay. And I'm going to just open this up. I'm going to go window, file, new window. I'm going to just see. I'm going to open up new project. Go fly control 3D. I'm just going to try this for a second. If this doesn't get it here, I might. Yeah, like look, we lost our airplanes now. Oh man. Okay. I'm gonna just take a little pause on this guy. Okay. I'm just gonna go back here. And just for my own sanity, I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna go to the crazy mode. You're in a fresh project. I want to create a 3D clone of the game Flight Control made with the most modern, latest version of Three.js. We should focus on simplicity here, making sure that this app can run in any browser and can work with either mouse controls or touch controls. We don't need to work on any type of fancy deployment. Please use what the most recommended deployment method is to get this running. Please make any decisions you need to get there and go forward with the aim of when I test this, I'll be able to test it locally in my browser at the end of your work. And I'm almost thinking I'll give it the screenshot. Okay, I'll say. So I'm going to give it the screenshot. The screenshot that you have is the 2D version of the flight control game. I would like you, though, to lock the 3D view to an isometric view that is appropriate for the gameplay. Okay, I'm doing this just because I think that, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end the stream now because I'm just going to end up being on here for like 11 hours. You know, I have this thing now. You see the prompt. You saw what I just put in. I'm basically going to give this the full reign to go nuts. I now have the other version is there in the other file. So I'll probably like park that for now and see where this goes. I'll post this results on Twitter, and then I will kind of pick this up tomorrow and see like how far did this go? Where did we get to? And then I'll come back to this and like live stream the results. So obviously if it nails this like isometric view in Three.js and we're like further along than we were here, we're just going to switch. We're just going to start doing this in 3D and like figure out the camera and use some physics or whatever we got to do. If it is a total failure, then we can obviously think about this again and maybe go back to this 2D version. But I'm like, if we're going to waste this much time kind of figuring this out and troubleshooting and like not being able to get it right, I definitely think that we should just focus on the 3D version. It just feels like the right thing to do. So those of you that watched, I appreciate it. Sort of document the process. This will be kind of fun to look back on. And I'm going to kill the stream for now and